Hey, giant builders. Today's guest is going to talk about some of the fears that Satan puts in front of us to stop us from doing God's work. Let's hear what she says.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, giant builders. Just to remind you, I created a free PDF on 5 home businesses that you could start yourself. So I'll put that link below. Let's meet our speaker. Welcome, giant builders. I'm so happy you're here. Today's guest is Charlene Warren. Hi, Charlene. How are you?
I'm great this morning. How are you?
All right. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about you and what you do?
Well, I am a Jesus lover. That's first and foremost. I'm a single mom of 3 kids. And over the last 3 to 5 years, God has taken me from being a chiropractor for a living. I'm actually a chiropractor by trade to being a Christian coach, or a coach for Christian authors and artists. So Christian creatives. And I could not ask for any better work. I mean, this job has been such a tremendous blessing for me and my family. And I get to help people share their God stories for a living, you know? And then I'm also an artist. I'm a Christian artist. I paint things like that one right over there.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And also have 2 books coming out this year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just a little bit about your books.
So first and foremost is Flaming Arrows. Flaming Arrows is basically helps us to identify the flaming arrows that the enemy loves to shoot at us, as women in particular, when it comes to stepping into who God designed us to be. You know, he loves to get in our heads. He loves to get us in the comparison trap. He loves to mess with our identity. He loves to mess with our courage. He loves to mess with our patience and our purpose and all of those things. And I just I feel like it's my personal mission to call him out. So that's
There you go.
that's the first one. And then Fighting Fear is the second one. Fighting Fear is basically a 31-day devotional on fighting fear biblically. I've struggled with fear in my own journey. As far as like God tells me to do something and I want to be obedient with my whole heart, but I hesitate. You know, it's like, what if I fail? What if I succeed? What if I, don't know how to handle this once I get it? And so I have fought through that to reach success myself, and to step into my own business, to step in. I mean, you name it, fear has been something the enemy knows he can use against me. And so that book came out of God actually telling me, like, well, then study it in my word, study fear in my word and learn how to fight it. And out of that came Fighting Fear. So that will also, both of them will be coming out hopefully around November, in time for Christmas.
Mhm.
And so I'm excited for whatever God does through those.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right, we'll each confess. I'll go first. All
Yeah.
right. So my Satan uses the fear of, was that really God's voice to me
Oh
all the time?
man,
I mean, I'm
that
always like going, is that really you, God? Or is Satan trying to
right.
trick me? I just don't know what. So
Oh,
what's
I actually just got the chills because this is perfect. I love when he does this. So the most recent season of my life has been a season of doubt. And I'm actually writing that in Flaming Arrows as we speak. I am working on the chapter right now about how the enemy loves to make us doubt his voice, God's voice, you know? And so, we're going to have a great discussion. I obviously struggle with that too, honestly. We don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
We don't want to get it wrong. And so we question, like, is that God's voice? Is that the enemy's voice? Am I putting that in myself?
Mhm.
But if you think about it, that's actually what the enemy did with Eve.
Yeah.
In the he said, did God really say that? Was that really God that said that? He what I find interesting, the season that I'm going through right now, what I find interesting is I started doubting his voice, started doubting God's voice when he told me that he was going to give me the desires of my heart,
Mm.
right? He
Mhm.
told me that I was actually going to get what I wanted. And that to me was harder to believe than anything. I'm not used to getting my way, right? I'm used to, I've had a life of struggle. And so that's kind of what I've grown to expect. And so in this last season, God was like, I'm going to give you what I've put as the desires of your heart. You know, I'm going to actually give you that. And that's where I was like, is that really you, or am I inserting that? You know, and he's so good and faithful. He came in and gave me confirmation from over here and confirmation from over here. And during this season where I was going through this, I went into my biblical counselor, and she starts flipping through her Bible because she all of a sudden God gave her something for me, and she goes to Second Kings, and the story about the Shemanite woman. I don't know
I
if you've heard that,
love
or
her.
right,
In fact, she
right.
is my Mother's Day episode, the Shimonite one. I love that one.
Really, I know,
Me
right?
too.
She's so relatable.
Yeah.
Because Elisha tells her, you know, you'll have a son. It was the desires of her heart, and
Mhm.
she didn't want to believe it. The
Yeah.
first thing she says in the very next verse is, "No, my Lord, do not lie to your servant." You
Yeah.
know, and so it's really interesting that we do that,
Mhm.
right? Where God promises us good things, and we go, oh, well, that couldn't happen, you
Yeah.
know, but we're supposed to believe him for good things. We're
Mhm.
supposed to believe him for big, unbelievably good things, you know? And so he's teaching me that in this season too. I battle that a lot. Yeah. So I relate 100%.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. All right. So tell me, how did you get into your art?
Oh boy.
What medium do you use?
I use acrylics
Okay.
on canvas.
Uh-huh.
And the story of my art is all about God, to be perfectly honest. I have a undiagnosed bipolar mom. And about how many years has it been? About 6 years ago, she had a pretty big break and was coming after myself and my family pretty hard. And
Oh.
so it was really, really stressful. And I remember one night during that time, she was making a lot of threats and stuff like that. And I was really just having to lean into God and kind of turn her over during that time. And my pastor at the time was a big guy, right? And he knocked on our door. We was coming to check on us, knocked on our door, and the knock on the door was like a boom, boom, boom. And I felt my whole body react, like, who's at my door, right? And I realized right then and there, like, I need an outlet for this. You know, this stress is in here and it needs to come out.
Yeah.
And so I did. I sat down, and I'd always been artsy. You know, I knitted, I drew, I did all these things, but I never painted.
Hmm.
And I sat down one day, and this incredible thing came out. And what's cool is, like, I never learned to do that, right? And so every time I paint, it's like he gets to reveal himself to me as well. You know, I stand back for these paintings and I'm like, what? You did that through my hands. It's just absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's
And so the
cool.
story of my art is really like a beauty from ashes kind of
Mm.
thing. He quite literally created beauty from ashes, you know. And it's the place that I feel closest to him.
Mhm.
My painting is worship 100%. Deep, deep worship. And I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And it's actually what led to my coaching business, to be
Yeah.
honest. Um, During a time when another season of kind of struggle where I had just become a single mom and I was trying to get on my feet financially. And he just kept telling me to paint. And I was like, what? Like, I need to be going out and getting a waitressing job or something like that, you know? But he just kept telling me to paint. And um, the fact that I did that and I was obedient actually led to somebody wanting me to design her book cover because she
Mm.
liked my art. Well, that turned into me editing her book. That turned into me publishing her book. That turned into me getting a publishing certificate. That turned into client after client after client, and now I'm years into this, and could not be more blessed to help these Christian authors and Christian creatives do what God calls them to do, you know?
Wonderful. All
Yeah.
right, well, let's go into that then. So tell me more about your coaching business.
Oh man. I'll be perfectly honest. This is how God works, right? When it comes to your calling. 1000% of the time you are unqualified to do it. Feel
Yeah.
unqualified. Yeah, I felt very unqualified when I stepped into this, you know. But God was very clear that he was giving me an opportunity and he wanted me to take it. And so I pushed through fear every step of the way. Um, I like I said, I went to chiropractic school, you know, and I've gotten an education now in this field. I have my coaching certificate. I have a publishing certificate. I've had the experience of working with authors all over the US, Christian authors. But really, I mean, you think about like David, right?
Mm.
Sitting in a field playing a harp. They came to him and invited him to the palace, right? And I'm sure he felt unqualified as well. In that moment, you know, a shepherd boy in a field playing a harp never thinks that he's going to end up in the palace, you know. So, but that's the way it works when it comes to our calling. We oftentimes are like, "What, me? Really?" You know, and so that's kind of how it happened. And he has built this business brick by brick. I get off of these Zoom calls with clients, and I'm just like, whoa, like I'm blown away, you know. It's like when I paint, honestly, it's like when I paint, where I stand back and I'm like, that is only you, you know. And the things that he does through my coaching with other people, right, in their lives. I've had authors who started out with one book, right, that they felt unqualified to write, who now have podcasts, who now have coaching businesses, where you know God has used our coaching relationship to lead them to these places that they never thought they would have gone. And so it's so amazing to get to be part of these people's journeys, you know.
So
I
there's specific types of books that you coach people through?
Not necessarily. So a lot of what I do is marketing coaching. I do well, I work with authors on all levels actually. I do writing coaching as well, but most of what I do is marketing coaching. So I have a background in online business basically. That's the short version of that story. But I have a little bit of a background with online business, and so working with authors and putting that together with that has turned into me coaching authors on marketing. That's kind of how it starts, but it's not like I don't have like the run of the mill coaching business where you put everybody through the same. It's very Holy Spirit led. Prayer is a huge, huge, huge part of what I do for my clients. And so I let God lead. You know, like I said, the one guy came to me for marketing. He wanted to figure out how to build a following on social media, and now he's got a podcast, and we're marketing that too. Um, so that's my specific niche, I guess you would call it, is marketing. But what God does through these relationships is bigger than that for sure.
No, wonderful.
Yeah. And
So
then I'm
what,
also an artist, so I've started branching into business coaching for artists basically as well.
oh,
Yeah.
that's a challenging one.
Yeah. But I had to learn how to do it myself. So now I get to
Yeah.
share that with other people, you know? So yeah.
So what do you think God is calling? What's the next fearful thing that God's calling you to do?
Mm. One of the things he's doing is he's scaling my business right now. I've had largely a one-on-one coaching business as of right now. But he's actually scaling it to do group coaching and membership and stuff like that. He also recently called me to start something called the Fight Club, which is a group on Facebook.
Okay.
And it is all about getting sassy with Satan. It's all about like fighting his lies. It's about fighting things like fear and self-sabotage and self-doubt and things like that. And my idea of it, to be honest, when I started it was gonna be a group for creatives. And it's exploded to so much bigger than that. So he is asking me to steward that.
Yeah.
And that is definitely big. I've got like almost 300 people in there right now
Wow.
that he's asking me to speak life into. And so that can be a little terrifying, a little bit intimidating, but I'm grateful for the opportunity as well. You know, people have lost their fight in this world. They
Mhm.
have. They've lost their fight. They've forgotten who they are. and what their identity is in the Lord, and the authority that they have, because life has just taken them down, or they have never learned that to begin with, that they're a fighter,
Yeah.
So God made me a fighter, and he's teaching me to really use the intricate parts of how he made me, to share my unique message of how he changed my life. And so that's what I'm doing. One scary thing at a time.
So when you first said that, the first picture that went in my head was like the armor of God
Yep.
with
Yep.
boxing gloves.
Totally. So it's interesting. The Fight Club has like a boxing kind of theme to it. It does. Like a lot of the posts that I make have to do with like being at the gym. Boxing gloves are usually part of it. And then fighting fear, that's actually the cover. The cover is boxing gloves and they have crosses on them. On the cover of the book. So that's yeah, that's really in line with what he's doing for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right.
Yeah.
So tell me, what do you think is one of the biggest self-sabotages that we put ourselves through?
That's a great question. I'll say this, one of the biggest ways that it comes out is in procrastination.
Oh,
Procrastination
yeah.
is a huge one. Because especially now these days with social media, I can't tell you how many times God has given me a direction in my business or given me a task to do or something to paint, right? And then all of a sudden I find myself completely numbing out on social media. Just
Yeah.
looking at the highlight reel, right?
Yeah.
Wasting time, and not being obedient, not stepping into where he's calling me to be. And then a week later, I still haven't done the thing, you
Mhm.
know? So self-sabotage can come out hugely in procrastination. Another way that I find it comes out in my life in particular is perfectionism.
Mm.
Perfectionism is a huge form of self-sabotage because we're never going to be able to reach it.
No.
We're never going to be able to reach it. And so many times, the only one who's perfect is him,
Mhm.
and we forget that because we try and we strive to be so perfect. And a lot of times it's with good intent, right? A lot of times it's because we don't want to screw up what he's given us. So we overthink it to death. We overanalyze it to death to the point of not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
And I know I've been guilty of that. I want it to be so perfect that I don't actually do, you know,
Oh.
and
Yeah.
God designed us to do the thing,
Yeah.
not to overthink the thing, not to over prepare for the thing, not to make sure our ducks are in a row until we do the thing. He designed us to step into it in faith,
Mhm.
right? And in trust in him, knowing that even if we fail, right? Even if we fail, it is part of his plan. He's got something for us in that failure.
Yeah.
There's growth in that failure.
Yeah.
So for me, self-sabotage has come out in those ways, in
Yeah.
procrastination, and then trying to be perfect,
Yeah.
perfectionism, and making sure it's perfect before I launch, or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I also think too that we don't dream big enough anymore.
Oh, that's true.
We don't dream big enough. We don't we don't allow ourselves to dream like big God-sized dreams.
Do you think
You
that's
know,
an age thing?
I think it could be. I think it could. I don't think it should be, but I think
Yeah.
it could be. I also think that people get a little beat up by life, right? And so they tend to lean more into that and let that become their identity.
Yeah.
They don't want to be disappointed,
Mhm.
and that's where doubt comes in as well. you know um we don't want to be disappointed. We don't want to hope in something and dream about something and have it not happen.
Mhm.
There's been plenty of us who have had promises broken or big disappointments in life, and we try to avoid those things at all costs you
Yeah.
know and so I think that we don't allow ourselves to dream big. We don't allow ourselves to believe God for big things in our lives anymore.
Mhm.
Uh, and we just get focused on surviving, you know,
Yeah.
rather than actually, uh, well, thriving, I guess. And living the lives that God designed for us,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah, in our house, my husband is the perfectionist.
Yeah.
He says I cowboy through things. Because I always figure, there's always a fork at the end. I can always
Right.
go one way or another. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I admire that though. Like I would love to be able to just fly headlong into something. I'm an
Mhm.
ideas person. I have 50 billion ideas. Like if you look at my notebook, it's full of like, oh, this course would be great. Oh, people need this. Oh, I need to do this workshop, right? But
Yeah.
when it comes to actually launching and doing those things,
Mhm.
the list is a lot shorter,
Yeah.
than the ideas that God gives me. And so goals and all of that, I don't do it so much anymore, but I used to hold myself back quite a bit on my goals.
Mm.
Like I don't want to fail, so I'm only going to put goals that I know I can achieve,
Oh,
rather
yeah.
than creating a really big goal that I have to strive for, you know?
Which takes us back to
Um,
the dreaming big.
Totally. Exactly. And so I think Christians especially need to be dreaming big. We
Mhm.
need to be, waiting in expectation for the things that God has told us that he'll give us, and the life that he wants to give us. I think we keep him in a little tiny box a lot of times,
Mhm.
and he doesn't belong in there. He's much bigger, you know,
Which brings me back to like watching the Israelites get to the promised land.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They had to wait a long time, and
Mm.
waiting is not easy, and waiting actually breeds doubt, I think sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, that's where I'm at right now. I came out of the season of doubt, and now I'm in the season of waiting. And I was just telling my friend the other day, that now that I'm in this waiting period, it's like the enemy likes to come against me and go, "Oh, see, are you sure God said that that was
Yeah.
going to happen? Because now it's not happening."
Mhm.
Right. And God is just like, I'm working, I'm doing something behind the scenes. You're waiting because of this, And so I just have to keep trained on his voice, be confident in his voice, and wait in expectation, you know? And we can do that because he's a good God and he's a faithful God and he wants good things for us.
It amazes me that you have two books coming out at one time.
Right. Well, he had me. So Flaming Arrows, Um, Flaming Arrows started a few years ago, to be honest. And I have a combination of things. One, I've fought through the fear and the self-sabotage and the self-doubt and all that. Because when you're writing a book, there's all kinds of things that the enemy uses against you, right?
More
He
arrows
tells
come at
you,
you.
oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, he tells you that nobody needs to hear your story. He tells you that who are you to write a book? Nobody's going to listen to what you have to say. Who are you going to publish it to? I mean, it's thing after thing. And then he comes with distraction as well. I have an entire section in Flaming Arrows on how he likes to come after our focus.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that one started a few years ago and he recently brought me back to it. And now I am full bore at the very end of that one. And then that will go into editing and everything like that to be published by November. Fighting fear, like I said, came out of a place where I was fighting fear myself. And I had started this devotional because I know that people need it. It's something that I coach my clients on a lot is fighting fear, and the way that it shows up, especially in people's professional lives and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, but God really revealed to me that it was as much as I thought that I had beat it, right? Because um, once I overcame the fear of failure, then fear of success started to show up. I would get right to the finish line of something and I would stop because I was scared of succeeding. I was raised by a single mom who, I didn't see success to the level that God is giving it to me. Right. So it's like being a pioneer. It's like a new frontier almost. And so it's a big unknown, and breaking generational curses and all of these things. Well, once I beat that, I realized that then I had like relationship fear, right? Fear
Mm.
of fear of connecting with God on like a really intimate level and things like that. And it was after a period of time where I was struggling with my relationship with God in that I was consulting with him all day long. I was praying in a way that's like, okay, God, what do you want me to do here? okay, what do you want me to do here? Right. But I wasn't like getting down and deep with him. I wasn't saying like, God, I don't like the way this is going, and I need you to help me have faith in the middle of it. I wasn't getting real and intimate with him. I wasn't connecting with him. And there's a difference between consulting and connecting,
Yeah.
Um, and during that time, God reminded me that I had started this devotional on fear. And that's when he told me, do a study. And so every time that I would dive deep and do a verse, do a study on another verse or something like that, then I would write it into the book. And that one's almost done as well. So yeah, I mean, there is so much about fear in the Bible. There is so much about fear. Especially in the Old Testament. The Old Testament had some really, really brave guys in it,
Oh, yeah.
guys that had every right to be timid and hesitate when God was asking them to step into something. And guys that did hesitate, but they still gave God their yes. And the rest is history, and so there's a lot of that in that book, a lot.
I can almost see Fighting Fear becoming like an encyclopedia set.
Right, totally. Totally. I mean, I could do one on right? I could do one on so many different topics.
Yeah.
And honestly, I see both of those books actually turning into Bible studies at some point too. That's the vision as of now. We'll see.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shoot, I wish your books were out right now. I'd give one away.
I know.
All right. So we'll come back in November or December.
That's right.
Whenever your book comes
That's
out.
right.
Then we'll do
Exactly.
another recording and we'll give a book away.
Sounds good.
Well, any closing thoughts?
More whenever I do these podcasts, I ask the Lord what he wants me the message that he wants me to share, to bring him glory. Right. And so more than anything, I want to encourage people, I want to encourage people to go after the things that God is telling you to go after, fearful or not. If you're hesitating, it means you should, most of the time, outside of conviction and outside of God trying to give you discernment, but if you hear God giving you that green light, you cannot let fear stop you. You cannot let the enemy stop you, because somebody needs whatever it is he's calling you to do. Somebody needs your help. There is something out there that God designed you to do specifically. And he needs you to step up to the plate to it, and so if it's writing a book, do it. Start. I don't care if it's 15 minutes a day. Take steps forward in it. If he's asking you to open the business, do it. If he's asking you to do the painting, do it. We're not designed to be timid. We're not designed to hold back when it comes to being obedient and taking the steps he wants us to take. And those steps are the only thing that's going to lead us to that life that he's put in our heart as the desires of our heart. You just got to keep going step by step.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I feel so light now.
Good. That's all him. That's not me. That's all him.
So, all right. Well, I'll have your contact information below. And seriously, we'll talk in November when your book comes out.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I would love that. All right.
All right, Jen. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.